Across the years from 2013 to the current year of 2025, the place that GD has served on YouTube has changed drastically, from 480p completion recordings to diss tracks, video essays, and so on. While these changes have been gradual, I thought it would be fun to divide these different times into their own eras, starting with in the beginning, late 2013 and 2014, there existed a ragtag group of people that found the game early in its life and decided they were going to record their gameplay. The only reason any of this was even possible was because of the level editor, a feature that RobTop added to the game for people to make their own levels. Keep in mind that this was before GD would ever get released onto Steam, so these were all phone players, 2014 phones. This naturally meant that none of these recordings were necessarily high quality or anything, but it was all there was back then. Some people you may recognize that were around at this time, people like Darnoc, AleXPaiN24, who was also at this time that the Korean community was likely at its strongest. Being number one on the star grinding leaderboards was basically the highest level of prestige you could achieve at this point. The beginning of the golden era is characterized by the release of update 1.9 in late 2014. This has brought many important changes and is perhaps the most influential update in the game's history. It added the integration of Newgrounds into the game, so that you wouldn't need to hear the same 16 songs over and over again, and this was also when Geometry Dash was released on Steam. This would not only expose the game to many more people, but it would also raise the skill ceiling, as there are now a lot more people on PC, and on an official platform. However, a very important event at this time was the famous Cataclysm. And this was a very difficult level created by the already fairly well-known G-Boy. Before this, any level that was very difficult for the time would be heavily disliked, as no one could beat it, and it was assumed to be hacked, but Cataclysm was pretty interesting, as people actually liked it. It was also assumed to be hacked due to its high difficulty for the time, but it was pretty well made, and so people tried to beat it. People such as Gyron, Sandstorm, Riot, and the currently unknown as a hacker, Cyclic. This race, which Gyron won in the end, was influential, and it changed how people saw difficult levels, with reverence as opposed to disgust. Another important revolution of this time was the origin of some scripted videos, such as the Mute Trolls expose and early seeds of a certain SEA1997. The most popular content at this time was still pretty much completions of hard levels, with names mentioned before, and many others. Keep in mind, I do not actually consider 1.9 to be the golden era of the game, but it was a very rapid growth of players and many other things in general. After the 1.9 era, with the rise of top players and Bloodbath, the game would actually go without a new top demon for a long time, and this led to a lot of people trying to dethrone it. Something else that came with the update 2.0 was the rise of impossible levels, and they could have a whole video to themselves. Anyway, the content that did well during this time was primarily clickbait. For example, impossible level semi-auto showcases, as made possible by the addition of the alpha trigger in 2.0. To make things invisible. Big figure to come out at the time would be ToshDeluxe, due to semi-auto impossible level showcases getting a lot of views. And someone else that would rise very quickly at this time was GuitarHeroStyles, a Spanish-speaking YouTuber that has been since shunned due to his unspeakable act. Someone named Eric Van Wilderman would also rise during this time. This was a pretty strange time for the game, as after the 1.9 update a lot of people had left and the game had gotten a lot more difficult. The wait for update 2.1 soon proved to be far beyond anyone's expectations. The 2.1 update released in 2017 after the longest wait that there had ever been up to that point, and with it came a lot of players. For about a year, sometime in 2018, the player count was waning a little bit, and the game wasn't looking so good in terms of player.
The game is pretty much dead.
It got to the point where a lot of people found the death of the game to be inevitable, and the game did see a lot more people coming in with the verification of the new hardest demon of the time, Bloodlust by Nobbleboy. The game probably wasn't gonna die, but player numbers were the lowest they had ever been. Someone notable to rise up at this time was SEA1997, who made some pretty popular scripted content. As a matter of fact, this was the first GD content I ever saw. And the previously mentioned Eric Van Wilderman was growing a lot at this time as well, despite the community being a bit smaller than before, due to no new updates for a long time. This would evidently not be the end of the game. Now that this 2.2 update doesn't seem to be out yet, these eras are not marked by updates anymore. The game didn't end up dying in 2018, or 2019 for that matter, but the game did become much more popular in 2020. Now obviously this was largely due to the global pandemic, keeping everyone inside their houses for the foreseeable future. Well, that and this new exciting number one demon, Tartarus, a legendary former impossible level verified by Dolphy. Due to all this, the game would become very popular yet again, despite there still not being any new update. The YouTube channels that were popular at this time were people like Npesta and GD Colon, whom both exploded in popularity. I mean Npesta especially, as you can see here. Eric Van Wilderman was doing better than ever at this time as well. And there was a vibrant top player scene as well, with people such as Enswish, Technical, Minecrafted and Brian the Burger. And the game would thrive for a long time after this as well, going into 2021. This era is marked by the verification of Slaughterhouse, as although it was hacked, it remains to be one of the biggest jumps in difficulty in the game's history. 2.2 still wasn't out yet. This was an exciting time to be around. Levels like Slaughterhouse, Firework and Silent Clipstep are actually being beaten. Of course, this was the rise of SpaceUK. Another name of this time was Samifying, as he uploaded the first of a couple of very well received video essays at this time as well. This was also the beginning of the immense popularity of impossible level showcases, such as with FNMO4, as botting technology was actually reliable for the first time, especially with the release of XBot. This would be the final era before the long-awaited 2.2 update would eventually be released, so the hype was at its peak. And even before the release of the update, a big event would occur, with SpaceUK being exposed for hacking almost everything.
You are done.
The hardest level at the end of this era was Tidal Wave. It's dethroned Acheron, with it being so hard that it is still number 1 to this day. Of course, this title is inherently going to become outdated, but this is what I'm calling it. This is marked by 2.2, of course, which came out after 7 years, with Tidal Wave still being the number 1 demon to this day. The top rising creators of this time are Vortrox, KingSammelot and Nexus, as he had amassed a lot of subscribers over time because of his popular showcase. Anyway, this is where we are at now. And it seems like Grief and Amethyst, verified by Doggy, and Popoff, respectively, are going to be dethroning Tidal Wave soon. But until then, we'll just have to see. And that was the entire history of GD on YouTube, put into an arbitrary list of eras.